Let's do it.
Woo!
This is Aaron with Realty Success Hub, our daily podcast show on all things real estate. Today we have a couple of really exciting people. We've got Angela from Savvy House Cleaner. We've got Brooke Bryant, who just came out with a new wonderful book, which we'd love to talk about today. And we've got Regina Brown, Realtor out of Texas. So if we could go around and introduce each other right quick, that would be fantastic. Angela, maybe we could start with you. We'll jump over to you, Regina, and then Brooke would love to get into some fun questions about you. So.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited. I just got my copy of Brooke's book, and it is called The Ultimate Guide for First-Time Home Buyers, and I'm super excited about this. I am Angela Brown. I'm from Savvy Cleaner. We run a house cleaner training company for house cleaners and maids. We are in 37 countries and 191 languages. Many of you have joined us on the Ask a House Cleaner podcast show. And I get to be on this show because we talk about move in, move out cleaning. And there's a huge element of getting a home ready to buy or getting a home ready to sell that includes cleaning. And so I'm super excited to kind of be a fly on the wall. And I got my copy of the book and I got all kinds of questions. So I'm really excited about today. So thank you guys for having me.
You bet. Regina, can you tell us about you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I love being a guest. So Regina Brown, I'm a realtor here out of San Antonio, Texas. I love helping people buy and sell properties, homes, whatever your interests are. So you can find me at Regina B Realty, anything real estate related. Brooke?
So thank you so much for having me here. I'm really, really excited about it. Like Angela said, thank you, Angela. I did just come out with my book, The Ultimate Guide for First-Time Home Buyers. And the reason for that, I work in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and a lot of first-time home buyers are here. A lot of people moving to this area. It's a big banking center. A lot of young people moving to the area. There's a lot to offer. So I do work a lot with first-time home buyers, and it can be a daunting experience. And it doesn't have to be. There are lots of moving parts, but if you take them step by step, then it takes a lot of the guesswork out, a lot of the worry out, a lot of the stress out. And so I'm excited to talk about that today. So thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, we're definitely looking forward to it.
Aaron, tell us about you.
Well, I am a realtor out of San Antonio, Texas. I've been doing real estate going on 14 years now. So super excited about it, passionate about it, and it is going to be super fun to hear Brooke's perspective because I know she is an expert in the Charlotte area. And we've got some fun questions for you today that a lot of our audience has asked for. And so
great.
I'd love to get into that.
I'll do my best.
Well, one of the questions that people ask, and I know this is true for a lot of the homes that we clean, is people want to know how much can they spend if they're just getting started in the home buying business or whatever. How much money can I spend on a home and how much should I save?
Well, I always suggest to first-time home buyers or any home buyer, the very first step should be for you to meet with a mortgage lender that you feel like understands your situation. Everybody's got different situations. Somebody that you feel like you can trust. Your realtor can recommend some mortgage lenders for you to talk with. And those professionals will help you figure out how much home that you can afford based on your income, your credit score, the debt that you're coming into this situation with. If you are borrowing with a spouse or someone else who's going to be on the loan with you, they will determine all of those things. They will help you find the right loan product. And again, based on how much you make, the price of the home, your credit score, that's going to determine what your interest rate is too. The better your credit score, the better your interest rate is going to be. And the interest rate impacts how much home you can afford. And so the lender will go over all of that information with you. And again, trust your realtor with that because they work with lenders very closely. And there's all kinds of different situations. Angela, I know you work with a lot of house cleaners who have their own business, and they're the way the income is documented is different than somebody who works for a company and gets a regular paycheck every week. So the right mortgage lender is going to be able to help those people with that. Or if you're somebody with credit issues that you need to resolve, the right lender is going to be able to help you with that as well. So a general rule of thumb is you shouldn't spend more than 28% of your gross income on a home. So for example, if you're looking, if your gross income is $5,000 a month, 28% of that, I think is $1,400 a month should be what you're spending every month on your house payment. So that's just kind of a ballpark, but to determine what price of a home you should be looking for, it's really going to depend a lot on your lender, what they have to say.
And should you try to spend less on your first home than maybe it's not your forever home, and you just maybe should spend under your means, or should you just try to get as much house as you possibly can? Like, I'm going to be paying on this for 30 years. Let me just go all out and get as much as I can. What's the rule on that?
There's no rule. There are a couple ways to look at it. Your home is going to be your biggest investment. Buying real estate is a great way to grow your wealth and to build wealth. So I really try and encourage first-time home buyers to consider buying a property that you're going to be able to afford in case, you may be early on into your career, or you may be approaching career changes. So it's something that you're comfortable paying, that you're not stressed out. I'm a big advocate of living below your means and stashing money away and having emergency funds. So, but I really do try to encourage my first-time home buyers, if there's any way that 5 years from now, when you're ready to change homes for whatever reason, to get a bigger home, if you want to work from home, you need office space. If you can manage to keep that first home and not need to sell it for the equity to buy the second home, if you can keep that as an investment property, as a rental. I know I wish that I had been able to do that with my first home. It's selling now for about 5 times what we sold it for in the 90s. So it would have been great to hold on to that and have all that rental income. But go ahead. Mm-hmm.
About how long do you need to hold on to a home before you have equity in it?
Have you seen this crazy market? I mean, it just...
But we get that question a lot.
Yeah. It really depends on the area where you are, and how volatile the market conditions are. Homes in the Charlotte area, if you purchased a home pre-pandemic, you're doing pretty well right now. The market has increased exponentially. We also just did new tax evaluations here, and property values increased exponentially. If you see a downturn in the market, that's going to affect you. But long term, real estate is such a safe investment. I think for most buyers, staying in a home 5 years is going to see you a return of equity. Again, depending on what type of loan product you got, what your interest rate is, if you've refinanced it. But hopefully you're going to be able to stay in a home for 5 years. You're going to realize some equity in that home before you buy the second home, or again, hopefully be able to start growing wealth through real estate and keep that home as an investment property.
Fantastic. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Super.
Do you guys see the same thing in Texas? Is it about the same there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 3 to 5 years.
What's your market?
Depending on what people are putting down. But yeah.
Is your market still strong in Texas?
It is. We just moved into a buyer's market here.
Mm-hmm.
And so a little more negotiations on the buy side.
We're seeing
a little more incentive on the seller side to get things done. We're also playing around with doing offers out to buyers who have come and looked at the house, kind of a reverse offer situation. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's funny how the tides change.
So what is, and this is just from my perspective, and I'm going to represent all of the people that don't know the inner workings of the real estate business. What is the difference between a buyer's market and a seller's market?
Well, seller's market is when there is very little inventory and a lot of people wanting to buy. We saw that during COVID here in Charlotte. People began working from home, so you could live anywhere. And the Charlotte area and the suburbs are a real big draw from people, especially the Northeast, where the taxes are incredibly high. We have a much more palatable tax base here. So we had a lot of people moving from the Northeast, and they could sell a home up there, come here and get a home twice the size for less than they sold their home in the Northeast for. So they were driving prices up. And we just didn't have a lot of people selling. So it really decreased the amount of inventory of homes that were available to sell, and the number of buyers was high. So that's a seller's market. We are shifting now. It's becoming more and more of a buyer's market. So there's more home inventory available and fewer buyers. So, and that's impacted a lot through interest rates. So prices are coming down for sellers. Back in 2000, I'd say 2000, 2001, and into 2002, if your house went on the market, you were receiving multiple offers from people who hadn't even seen your home. There was sight unseen, high offers, no contingencies. That was a really, really, really competitive seller's market. And we're seeing it trend now to our buyer's market.
And when you say contingencies, what does that mean? What is a contingency?
So let's say your home was on the market for $300,000. You had 5 people put in an offer, and 3 of them said, we don't care if it only appraises for $200,000. We're going to pay you $300,000. We'll come up with the extra cash ourselves. Even if our lender will only give us $200,000, we'll come up with the extra $100,000. So not contingent on an appraisal. They would write in the offer that they will do a home inspection, but they will not ask you to make any repairs, things like that. So, really, the sellers were they were loving it. And buyers were having to kind of do all the heavy lifting.
You seem to have a really good grasp on the current market conditions. I know that's a question we get a lot. People are scared about the interest rates and what's going on. As a realtor, I guess the best the best conditions for your market, or how do you kind of stay on top of that?
So when you're working with a client and they want to know what the market conditions are, that is very important. So if I'm working with a buyer 2 years ago, I would have to prepare them. If a home comes on the market and you just feel like it's really, really checking all of your boxes of the things that you must have in a home and want to have in a home, you're going to have to make a really strong competitive offer. So that's the market conditions are going to dictate how quickly you have to proceed, what type of offer you need to bring to the table. So again, now that we are trending to a buyer's market, got a listing coming up, and if they had sold last year, it's going to be very different conditions. We were probably going to expect multiple offers. Now homes in that price range are staying on the market about 45 days. So I need to make my seller aware of that, I'm sure you heard people saying, oh, I've gotten so many offers and way above ask, and it's great. Things have changed, and you're not going to be able to expect that. Or maybe something, maybe it's a fluke, maybe it's a unicorn and it will happen, but market conditions don't predict that. And again, if I'm working with a buyer and the interest rates have gone up pretty significantly over the past 2 years, they're going to be able to afford less than they would have when the interest rates were lower. But hopefully we're going to see those interest rates coming back down, and they'll be able to be in a position to refinance when that happens.
So I got a weird question about the market conditions. If the market conditions change, do the lenders change their rules based on market conditions?
The lenders and the Fed, everybody really tries to keep on a level playing field so that the real estate industry does not stall, because it is such an indicator of the economic health of the country. It is a great way for for everyone to grow their wealth. So there really is, there's always some program to try and move that market forward, sometimes more quickly than others. But yes, the lenders will come out with products. They will lobby for less strict conditions. Back in 2008, when we saw the bottom fall out of the market, was in large part because of subprime loans. So lenders were giving loans to people who had no business getting loans, and then the loan product would change. You know, you get these terms on this loan for a year, and then at the end of the year, the terms change, and that person in that home is not able to then afford the new payment, and so it led to foreclosures. And so it was really debacle in the housing industry. So yes, lenders are very aware of market conditions, and they work hard to be creative with loan products that are going to help qualified buyers move forward with the purchase of a home.
So if you're a first-time home buyer, are there certain types of neighborhoods that you should look for a home in that maybe are going to withstand the test of time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So standing the test of time is really important, especially if you think you're going to be in that home long term, or if you are going to hold it as an investment property. So it's all situational. If you're looking at this to be your forever home, then you're going to want to consider, what does my forever look like? What does my future look like? Am I going to be able to raise children in this home? What amenities are in the neighborhood or nearby? And what are the school systems like? What's crime like? Is this close to anything? Are there is good shopping available? And to really think long term, am I going to be able to age in place in this home? Are there good hospitals nearby, so that when I do age, that I've got access to good medical care? And those are all good questions too, if you're going to hold it as an investment property, because you don't know who'll be a tenant in that property. It could be somebody who wants to downsize and sell their property and just want to rent, so they don't have the homeowner concerns. They want to rent. So you need to factor that in. And also, is the property, would it be a good candidate for an Airbnb or a short-term rental of some sort? So the neighborhood really is going to depend on what you plan to use the home for while you're in it, if you're going to hold it as an investment property, and if it's in a stable area.
So how do you know if you're just buying a home for the first time? How do you know if you should buy like a condo or a townhouse, or if you should buy like a duplex or a single family home?
Well, condos and townhouses are really great for a lot of people. If you're a young professional and you travel a lot, there's not a lot of maintenance on the home. Or if you are older and you're aging in place in that home, again, there's not a lot of maintenance. You will want to consider, very often condos and townhouses are multi-level and don't have, because it's a smaller footprint, very often they won't have a bedroom downstairs. So that's something to consider. But you also have to factor in that condos and townhomes have pretty steep association fees. Very often they'll have amenities to be a draw for home buyers. So the HOA fees, the homeowners assessments are very often going to be to cover the cost of pool or lifeguard, lawn maintenance. So, and that factors into what you can qualify for a home loan. So if the home is the same price as a single family home, but you have HOA fees of $300 a month, that's going to factor in to what your house payment is and what type of loan product that you're going to be able to get. And another thing to consider too, if you are buying in a townhome or a condo community, very often there will be caps on how many rental properties are allowed to be in that community. So if you're thinking about having it as an investment home, you're going to want to check and see what maybe only 15% of the properties in that community are eligible to be rental properties. So that's something to factor in if you're thinking of buying this as a future investment.
I would assume that a lot of new buyers don't really know whether to get a condo, a townhome, or a single family.
Right.
About how many homes do you guys typically look at, and kind of what's the process of whittling that down?
Again, it's situational. And Aaron, I know that you and Regina are really, we're like-minded in this, that before you start working with clients, you really want to begin developing a relationship with them. Aaron, I think I've heard you say before that you kind of date your client, and you do. You sit, you have a coffee, you have real conversations about what it is that you're looking for. Are you thinking about having investment properties, or do you not? Is that of no interest to you? Are you looking to get as much house as you could possibly afford and really dig your roots in there? So it's really situational. I've had clients, I think my most recent buyer, we probably looked at 8 homes. I've had clients who wanted to put an offer in on the very first one. I'm like, let's go see just a couple, just a couple more. We don't have to do, but I've had clients that I worked with on a much more long-term basis where, we worked together for several months looking at properties until they really found, they weren't in a position where they had to sell. So they had a little more flexibility in their timetable. So it really is situational, but I would say I would really, really like for clients to see a minimum of 5 homes. But when we were having the really, really competitive market, it was hard to do that. I would have times where, we'd schedule to go out to see some homes on a weekend. We'd have, let's say, 7 homes scheduled to see, and we'd set off in the morning, and 3 of them would be under contract before we got anywhere close to them. So again, it's really dependent on the market. If you've got a buyer and they see a home they really love and they want to think about it, they have to consider, what if somebody saw it yesterday and they slept on it and today's their day to make a move. So it really depends on the market, how fast things are going. If it's a market where things are going in under contract within 2 or 3 days, you may want to pull the trigger a little more quickly. If it's a market where things are on the market for 30, 45 days, then you have a little more time to, it's maybe a little more relaxed. You have time to go see more. But I don't ever want somebody to buy a home that they will regret buying. And I don't think I've ever had that happen where somebody really was just very unhappy with where they ended up.
I've noticed too that with first time home buyers, a lot of times they have no idea. They don't know. And
Yeah.
so I was with a young couple the other day, and they thought they wanted a home similar to what their parents lived in.
Mhm.
And so getting into the details of their lifestyle and what they're not doing when they're not at work. Like, what are you doing when you're not at work? And come to find out, they love being downtown. They love the Riverwalk. They love art shows. They love eating out. Neither one of them cook. And so instead of being out in the suburbs, we ended up looking at condos right downtown. And horrendous for families. Makes no sense for families, but they don't intend on having children. And so they're in their late 20s, and they both work in the banking industry. And I told them, I said, for me, I live right downtown. I said, we walk everywhere. We eat out. We're, entertained. And they loved the idea. They hadn't even considered it. And so they're not going to look at condos or townhomes unless we, as their realtors, talk about their lifestyle and talk about what they like to do.
Absolutely.
So rolling out of bed on a Saturday morning and grabbing a coffee at a cafe and going, for us here, it's the Pearl downtown where there's farmers markets and live music and entertainment. And it's lifestyle, I think, is a huge part of that a lot of people don't pay attention to.
Absolutely. And so many people do base their idea of home on the only home they've ever known is that what they grew up in. And that's not necessarily going to be the right fit for you. In the Charlotte area, we have so many little bedroom communities around the city. We've got a great uptown Charlotte with sports arenas and great dining and entertainment. And then we've got these really cute, Noda is an area here. It's a real artsy district. So a lot of people go there. And then we've got a lot of the suburbs, and, if good schools and family are much more important to you than being able to have public transportation access or the fun nightlife, really need to have those conversations with your realtor. Hey, here's what I'm looking for. And as realtors, we should have questions that we know to ask and pull that information out of a client who really may not have even thought about that, may not have thought about, well, I would probably like to be in a community where I can work, live, and play. I want to have that. Or some people, they want the commute to uptown and they want to live out in the suburbs and have some, a nice yard and a garden. So it really is so important to have a realtor that you feel comfortable speaking with, talking to, having conversations, who takes the time to get to know what you want, what's important to you, what your long-term goals are for this home. Because home is so, so important. It's our safe place. It's our refuge. So it needs to be a place that your clients love.
So what is the process once you've decided, okay, I think this is the area that I want to live in? What is the process for making an offer on a home? Like, how do you know when you're on the right home?
So when you know. But if it's a home that you feel like it would crush my soul if somebody else got this home, this is my home, I have to be in this home, that's going to help you through that offer process. How bad is it going to hurt you if you lose this home out to another offer? So rely on your realtor to tell you what market conditions are. Do pull comps on the area, which are, comparative sales of what has sold in that area, because that's what a lender is going to do. So if you find a home for $300,000, your realtor will be able to help you determine, is the appraiser going to be able to appraise this at $300,000? And I'll explain that a little more later. And if it's a home you really love, then you come in at or above that asking price and try and make a strong offer. If you've got cash, of course, everybody wants a cash offer, because sometimes the loans fall through and, you'll go under contract and something happens and the buyer won't be able to ultimately qualify for the loan. So cash is king. If you can pay cash, do that. But, most people, I think in the Charlotte area, we saw like 28% cash home sales last year. But so most people do need to get a loan. So have a pre-approval letter from your lender, or an approval letter where you've gone through the underwriting process, and try and put the strongest offer in you can. There was a time when buyers would submit what they call love letters with their offer. We love your home. This is why we can see ourselves there. Our real estate commission here in North Carolina is really not encouraging that, because it can be kind of prejudicial. But so come in with a strong offer, have a realtor who's going to communicate that offer in a very timely manner. If I have a buyer who sees a home that they like and, hey, Brooke, I really want to put an offer in this, I'll contact that realtor right away. See, do you have other offers? Please don't accept anything until I submit my offer to you, and really try and advocate for my buyers to get as good and strong offer in front of the sellers as I can, as quickly as I can.
So then I have a question, and I hate to ask this question, but let's just go ahead and lay it out on the table. I know when I go to buy a car, there's going to be, I don't know, there's like some expectation that we're going to negotiate on price, and they're going to give me numbers, and then they're going to go back to the manager and they're going to get new numbers and come back. And there's like this weird game that you play until everyone agrees on the same price. Is that the same in the house industry? Or is it when you buy a house, it's kind of like, this is our final offer and the end? Is there any negotiation? Is there room for negotiation? How does that work?
Very often there is. Again, it's solely relying on the market conditions. So let's say, Angela, we go and we look in in a neighborhood that you really like, you've had your eye on for a while, there's a home on the market, you decide you love it, you want to put an offer in on it. Before we go see that home, I will have looked at that neighborhood and seen what sales have been like. We'll know, are there any other homes for sale in that neighborhood? If there are, good. Maybe it's not, this isn't the only home that's for sale. Maybe the offers won't be so competitive.
And will you try to keep me in that neighborhood?
If that's where you want to be, yes. Or if you just want to be in this school district, or you want to be in this zip code, where
Okay.
it's we're kind of steering that car together. So if you're like, nope, my best friend lives in this neighborhood, my brother-in-law lives, we have to be in this neighborhood, then okay, yeah, it may take longer to find the house that you want in that neighborhood because it's a smaller pool to choose from. But so I will know the market conditions specific to that neighborhood. Homes in this neighborhood sell at 98 to 101% of the asking price. So you're going to have a strong offer, and they typically stay on the market for 10 days or less. So in a situation like that, then there's probably not a whole lot of room for negotiations because this neighborhood sells at or above ask price and they sell quickly. If homes in that neighborhood have stayed on the market for 30, 45, 60 days and they're selling at 95% and people are it's just a slower selling neighborhood, then yeah, maybe you've got some room for negotiations there. So it really just depends on how hot that area is, how quickly it's selling, what those homes are selling for, how desirable it is, and if you're going to have a lot of competition. So yeah, they're like Aaron was saying, we're shifting into a buyer's market. So there are more homes available with fewer buyers. So you're not going to have 10 multiple offers on a home like you would have 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So, in that situation, the seller was in the driver's seat. Now the buyer is a little more in the driver's seat. So it depends on the market conditions, but yeah, there are times when there's negotiations, you'll submit an offer, they'll come back with you, they'll counter offer, and then you can sometimes just meet in the middle, or you'll make concessions on okay, well, we can do that, but we want to stay in the home for an extra month because we're going to need time to find our next home. So yeah, there's lots of points that you can negotiate in the contract, and it really just comes down to market conditions and how hot that property is.
Do you ever offer any concessions, or do you kind of like hold back and you wait until they make a demand and then you're kind of like, maybe we can offer that, maybe we can make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you test the waters. I had one recently where the seller was moving into, she was combining households, and she wanted to sell everything in her home. And so we negotiated on that. She had a price in mind. My buyer had a price in mind. And we waited till the inspection was done and the repairs were done, because that was fundamental to the sale of the home. The purchasing of the furniture was just kind of, a sideline deal. So yeah, we waited until that was done and we got that wrapped up before, I then went into the negotiations on the sale of the furniture. So yeah, it's a give and take. Ultimately, hopefully me as the realtor and the other real estate agent that is representing the seller, hopefully you two can establish open lines of communication, and both are of the mindset that this should be a win-win for everybody involved.
I know that we cleaned a house for a home builder, and it was the model home. So we cleaned the model home, and then when the person moved in, they kept us on as the cleaner. And the first time I went in, I was like really perplexed. I'm like, this is all the same model home furniture and all the same paintings and everything. Like, you just moved in. And they said, I know, when we went to buy the house, we loved the way that it was. And we asked if we could buy everything. And I guess there was a glitch because the stager, whoever put the home together, did not sell the home as is. So then the home builder had to buy all the furnishings from the decorator in order to leave the home as is, in order so that the seller or the buyer could buy it. And I was like, wow, you just bought it like it is, you just as is. And I'd never seen that before.
As realtors, we are often asked, "Oh, I want that armoire. I want that sofa. I would love to have that table stay." And so we get to negotiate those items as well.
Yeah.
So
We, a lot of the communities, I do a lot of work in the suburbs that surrounding Charlotte, and there are a lot of larger neighborhoods with pools, and a lot of those homes, a lot of the folks in those homes have golf carts. And so very often people will want to sell their golf cart with the home because they're moving to a community that 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 won't be accessible, that won't be useful for them to have a golf cart. So we see a lot of that. And people really don't like moving furniture, washers and dryers,
So
people,
true.
they want to leave those washers and dryers because, they're just not built to last. Like, my grandmother's washing machine is probably somewhere still working. But the ones we have, but the ones we have now, they are just not built to last. So people are like, yeah, I'll just leave that washer or dryer for you. So they're not moving them around. So yeah, there's always things like that you can negotiate.
Well,
Brooke,
that's weird because in my home that I live in right now, when I move, I will probably leave the hot tub and the riding lawnmower because those are two things that I don't plan on taking to the next house if I downsize, because there will probably be an on-site, like one of those community clubs where they have like a hot tub or something.
Yeah.
And then also I'm hoping to move to a smaller yard where they don't have an acre of property that you have to drive around and mow the grass. So I'm hoping to leave those two items. Can I request a negotiation like, hey, you guys buy these from me, like include these in the purchase?
They really can't be included in the purchase of the home. The hot
Okay.
tub kind of can, but the lawnmower, personal property, it depends on the sale, your particular transaction. But lenders won't loan money on personal property in the sale of a
Okay.
home. So it kind of is a little bit of a slippery slope there. So typically it's done outside of the transaction, but it's something like, okay, I'll knock $1,000 off the price of the home and throw this in, or I'll raise the price of the home $2,000 and throw these things in. And
Got it.
so it really just comes down to, if you just really can't work it into the loan, but if they want to pay cash outside of that, yeah, you can work it out. But promise you, somebody's going to want that riding mower and that hot tub, and you don't want to move either one of those.
No, I don't. That's
So-
the thing. I'm like, I hope I don't need them again. Yeah.
You could also swap them out for repairs oftentimes.
That's a great tip.
cost of repairs.
So
Oh, that's
sometimes
great.
on the negotiation side, if you don't want to really repair something that came up, you'd say, hey, instead of repairing this, I've got this mower that's worth X. Could we maybe do a swap on that? And
Oh, that's
everybody
exactly
wins
what
that.
I'm going to do. I have these 3 little windows. They're little tiny oval windows that are inside my house, and 2 of them need to be replaced. And the very top, like 2 stories up. And what's weird about the windows is I've tried to have them replaced numerous times, and the company that created the windows tells me they don't exist again. And it's going to be like this really big song and dance. And it was such a big song and dance that we haven't got them replaced yet. But like, I think the thermal seal is broken on them. And in order to sell the house, I really need to replace them. And so it's on my like forever to-do list. Like one day somebody's going to come along and say, I know how to replace those. But right now I haven't found anybody. And so maybe I'll trade them out the lawnmower in exchange for the window so I don't have to do that.
There you go.
That's a good plan. Yeah. I mean, everything is negotiable, right? But that was in the one transaction that I had with the furniture. She was at one price and my buyer was at another price. And, she had emotional attachment to this furniture. So, of course, in her mind, it's worth way more. And we had to remind her, it's going to cost you to pay to have these things moved. And you need to factor that into it too. There's cost and convenience for you in this transaction as well. So it all worked out and everybody was happy. So
Speaking of costs, Brooke, we've got a question here about down payment versus closing costs.
mm-hmm.
Can you
So
speak a little bit about that to a first-time home buyer who's maybe
Yeah.
wondering what the difference is?
yeah, and that can be really scary for a home buyer. Oh, how much money is it going to take for me to buy a home? There are it's many different kinds of loan products. An FHA loan is a government-backed loan, and you can if you your credit score needs to be about 580 for an FHA loan. You can have a lower credit score, but you're going to have a higher interest rate. And if you're at 580 or above, then you can put 3.5% down on a home. And then you have conventional loans, which have better interest rates. It's for folks with typically higher income and a higher credit score. And you can get into those 20% down. Now, ultimately, if you are able to put 20% down on a home, you're going to avoid PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, which is an additional fee that you're paying to the lender because there is some, you don't have as much skin in the game. So there's some risk that you might default on the loan. It's easier for you to default on a loan that you have 3.5% versus, I've got 20% into this. You're going to be less likely to default on that. So if you can,
you should plan on 20% down. And you should plan on, if you don't have 20%, but you have a good credit score, expect to pay PMI insurance, which is a couple $100 a month or something. And then also if there's like a HOA or there's something else that is extra costs, factor that into the price because that's a monthly cost as well, kind of like forever.
That the HOA fees won't factor into the sale price of the home, so you don't have to factor that into what you're saving for your down payment.
But you're going to end up paying that every month.
Yeah, that'll be part of your monthly house payment, but doesn't factor into how much money that you need to put down on the home. And so
is that counted as part of when you said don't spend more than 28%? Is that factored into how much money you're going to be factoring into how much it's going to cost me per month to run this household?
Yes, it should be included in that because that is a given monthly. You're going to have to pay whatever the HOA fees are. And also consider that most years they go up, not drastically usually, but they do increase year over year. So just like everything does, you need to factor all of that in. Is your income going to keep up with inflation and the rising cost of electricity and HOA fees and gas and food and all of those sorts of things? And so that's not necessarily a hard and fast rule, but to be comfortable in your lifestyle, that 28%, 36% is what you should be spending. That's kind of the rule of thumb, 36% for your house, your car, your credit card payments, any loans that you have, like student loans, something like that. 36% of your income goes towards those things. But yeah, with the HOA fees, that is part of that 28%, but also factor in if you're living in a townhome community that's got a great pool or Angela, like you said, a 55 and up community where there's all kinds of fun activities versus you going out, and those are available to you as part of those fees, you going out, like Regina, you said, going down to the Riverwalk, those are your amenities and you're paying for those. So yes, you need to factor it into that that's part of your monthly house payment, but are you offsetting that by not spending that money on entertainment somewhere else to factor that in?
Yeah, we discussed the trade-offs because, oh my gosh, the HOA is so high down here and parking is $600. I said, it is. I said, but if you work down the street and you're walking everywhere for entertainment, do you need 2 cars? I said, the condo has space for one. It's an additional $600 for another spot. So do you now need 2 cars? So adjust your lifestyle. Maybe you don't.
That's so true. That's so true. Your home really needs to be a reflection of the lifestyle you're living. And as you said, the home that they were looking for was the home they grew up in. And that home had probably a 2-car garage and out in the burbs somewhere. And I know in the Charlotte area, we are really trending in the live, work, play. Relying more and more on public transportation. Charlotte's really pushing hard. We've got a light rail system and really trying to grow that public transportation infrastructure so that people can rely on that and not own cars and, reduce the carbon footprint and live, work, play. So it's trending, I know, in big cities all over the country.
Well, and I think that's important. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it's funny because downtown you have all of these people in business suits and they're flying by on scooters. And instead of parking and dealing with all that rigmarole, they just jump on a scooter and off they go. And then you leave it on whatever sidewalk that you jump off at a cafe or work or your meeting. So public
Right.
transportation, there's all forms of it and a lot of options now. So
Absolutely. We have a little small town right outside of Charlotte. It's called Matthews, and there are scooters available in Matthews. The downtown district's kind of become an entertainment um, food bars, and so there are the scooters that are available for use in that tiny little town. So yeah, it's definitely a trend
electric bicycles are everywhere. They're all
everywhere,
over here. Are they
and
out in Charlotte as well?
they are here in Charlotte as well.
You don't
And
even have to pedal. You just jump on and zoom. Off you
right,
go.
that's my kind of bike.
You don't even have to break a sweat. It's amazing.
But too,
What?
as people started working from home, there was a less of a need for two car families or 3 car families too. So, Angela,
Well,
a
I know,
huge
I know.
expense to get rid of.
As we were looking for homes, and I think what Brooke said is really important about knowing your lifestyle, and what Regina said about altering your lifestyle to fit. Because I know that we're coming from a 3-car family garage, and so our instinct was we need a 3-car garage. But in the 3-car garage is that riding lawnmower that I was going to give away and replace for the windows. And so if I don't take that riding lawnmower with me, I don't need another garage, because that's all I was going to put in there was the riding lawnmower. That's what's in there now. And so if we don't have the need for that, like Regina said, adjust your lifestyle so that the 2-car garage then is okay. That's all you're going to need if you move to a smaller area that doesn't have the necessity for a yard maintenance, you know?
well, my situation is that we live in one of those neighborhoods with the pools, and so we do have a golf cart, and I park in the driveway, and the golf cart gets the garage. So I don't know how that happened, but so I got the outs on that. But and then you were talking about closing costs, Aaron. So closing costs, they're not part of they're the costs that you incur as part of the purchase of the home. So it's going to be your down payment. I'm sorry, your the lender will charge you a loan origination fee. You're going to pay for some of the inspections on the home, like the home inspection itself. You're going to pay for an appraisal. You're, depending on the property, you're going to pay for a survey.
Now this is the buyer.
The buyer, but very often, depending on the market, like Aaron said, we're trending to a buyer's market. And very often, if a seller has their home on the market and it's been 60 days and a buyer comes in with an offer and asks the seller to pay some portion or all of the closing costs, the seller may agree to do that. So the buyer can request that closing costs be paid by the seller. It depends on the market. If it's a hot seller's market, you're not going to pay that. But the seller is going to pay the real estate commission fees. So you pay it for your listing agent, and you also pay it for the buyer's agent. So that's part of the seller's closing costs. And so your lender can help determine what your closing costs are going to be. A part of that is we call it an escrow. So it will be monies held back for the taxes and insurance on your home. And you can set that up in escrow so that when you make your house payment every month, those fees are paid as part of your house payment. So those are closing costs. So that's the difference between down payment and closing costs that you were asking about, Aaron.
Yeah, wonderful.
You also mentioned something about inspections. What inspections should be done when you purchase a home?
Well, a home inspection should be done by a professional home inspection company, and the inspector will come out to the home. I encourage always for the buyer to be there, and the inspector will go through the entire home, checking all of the major systems, electrical and the heating and air, plumbing systems, and as well as just all the little small things too, like does this light switch operate a light? Do these outlets work? Is the dishwasher functional? Is the microwave functional? Garbage disposal? Look at the foundation of the home. Are there any structural issues in the home? They'll go into the attic. I say he, doesn't have to be a he, could be a she. But go into the attic and see if there are any active leaks or any old leaks, and check the water heater, see if there's rust. So they'll go through the entire home, and then they'll give you a report finding things that were of concern, and then recommend that you have a professional in that field further evaluate to see if the item needs to be repaired, replaced, how deep that issue runs. And then you will then negotiate with the seller to make those repairs, or pay for those repairs after closing sometimes. That's just a negotiation that you work out with the seller.
You pay for those repairs with the hot tub?
So there are different levels of home inspections. So if I were buying your home and I wanted that hot tub, yes, I would have the hot tub inspected too. There are pool inspections. So yes, that would be part of that.
Do you recommend as a realtor what kind of inspections people get, or?
I do. And I want to cover all of my bases. I want my buyer to feel like they got every inspection they want done, but ultimately it's up to them. In North Carolina, we have recommended radon inspections. There's radon gas that can come into your home. It's easily mitigated. It's another, and you can get radon test kits at your big box stores, at your home improvement stores. The one that the home inspector does, it's a more sensitive machine, and it gives you more accurate readings, but it's a couple $100 to do that. And I always recommend a pest inspection. Sometimes lenders require a pest inspection to see if there are any active wood-destroying insects in the home. And typically,
do you do any testing at all for mold?
If the home inspector finds evidence of mold, they will determine if they feel like it needs further evaluation. They'll recommend that. If it's something you're concerned about, if it's in an area, Angela, you and I were talking earlier, back when the housing crisis, 2008, a lot of homes were being constructed and left vacant without being dried in, meaning the walls weren't up. So they took on water. And if you have concerns with those that, bought one of those homes in that time, I better look and really have a mold remediator come out and do a full inspection on this home. You can certainly do that. But the inspector, they're very well trained. If you have, use one that you really trust, that your realtor trusts and recommends, and gets good reviews, they will, they know the factors to look for to see if further evaluation of your home is needed to determine if there is mold and needs to be remediated. But any concern you have as a home buyer, get that inspection done. You're paying for the inspections, but wow, isn't it worth it to know that, I paid another $300 or $200 or $500 for this, but it saved me down the road. I did not buy a home that's, termite ridden. And so the home inspection is typically paid for by the buyer, but it is part of that closing cost, and you can negotiate to have the seller help you with some or all of those costs.
And I think that's really important. I know that when we purchased our house now, we were selling another house. And so there was a home inspection, and there were a few things that flipped up the red flags, like, hey, this should have been done when the house was built. So that when this house was being built that we live in right now, my husband hired the inspector to come over and double check before we move in that everything meets the standard and the code and all that stuff, so that when we go to sell the house, we don't find all these extra repairs that could have been prevented early on. Does that make sense?
That's money well spent. And you can hire, you can have a home inspector that you hire at the beginning of the building process, and they will go out there at different stages of the construction process to make sure that things are done along the way, because you are going to have to get, the county that you live in, they're going to do the home and they're going to have it inspected along the way. But another set of eyes and somebody who's working on your behalf is never a bad thing.
I had a weird situation happen last week. I was working with a buyer and they found this home they fell in love with. Well, the sellers, it was contingent. And so they were looking to sell their home quickly so that they could move. And in order to save time, they went ahead and paid for an inspection on their home so that they could upload it to the MLS and everyone would have access to it before they even started, as soon as they put it on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And my buyer was really bothered by that. And they thought, well, they're trying to hide something. They hired an inspector and I just don't feel comfortable with that. And so they went and hired a different inspector. Nothing popped. There wasn't anything different. But what would you recommend? Do you think it's a good idea if someone's going to sell their home to go ahead and have an inspection done? Because like Angela was saying, if you're going to sell your home and you know what the big issues are, you can address them. You can take care of them. Figure out if you're going to give a lawnmower away or a hot tub, or how are you going to address those issues?
Well, I think in real estate, we deal with so many different kinds of personalities. I think the seller was probably trying to be proactive in doing
For
that.
sure.
And I totally appreciate that. As representing the buyer, I understand if the buyer is not comfortable. I like my buyer to be at the inspection so that they can ask questions in the inspection company that I most often use. They are so great about answering questions for my buyer, going it over, how, if it becomes an issue, here's how you address it. Is it something big? Not really. Is this one big? Yeah, you need to handle that. So it really just comes down to what your client is comfortable with. And I really want my buyers to be comfortable in the home they're getting. And if it's, they pay about $500 for another home inspection, and if that gives them some peace of mind, then that's money well spent. But I do think, especially as we are trending towards a buyer's market, it is going to make a seller's home stand out. They can say, here's an inspection report I had done. Here are the repairs that I had made. And here's the documentation from the professionals who did that work.
Yes, of course.
I would include that with my listing materials. So it just, if your buyer wants to feel more comfortable, then but then by all means go forward. But I do think it's a good, in a buyer's market, I think it's a good marketing tool.
I agree.
You seem so thorough. It seems like you've got a process for everything. So.
Well, I know you guys do too. I mean, this is a big, this is something so huge that our clients are trusting us with, and they're going to be in that home every day, and you want it to be a good experience for them. And ultimately we want our clients to recommend us to their circle of influence and to use us again and again, and experience the positive benefits of owning a home. I believe so much in that. And I wish everybody the opportunity to be able to own real estate.
Well, and I think that's why you wrote the book. As a homeowner, I found your book immensely helpful because there are a whole bunch of things that you don't think about until you go to buy a home. And I know that it's been several years since we've purchased a home. So although we're not first-time home buyers, I found it immensely helpful because we are in the market again. And so I love the book, not to keep gushing on it, but yay, here it is. Gush.
Gush away.
But I really appreciate the checklists that are in here, and I appreciate the little known facts. This is full of little known facts that as I read this, I was like, wait a second. And I felt like I was peeking under the hood, where I learned a lot of things that now going to buy my next home, this is going to give me a lot of ammunition that I need so that I don't make any mistakes. And then I find myself in buyer's remorse later on down the road. So tell us, I mean, I know where I got my book, but major online retailer, tell us where we can go to get a copy of your book for everyone else that doesn't have their copy yet. I know I have mine, but tell us where to go.
Absolutely. And thank you for saying that. And I know that you are an experienced home buyer, but I know that you work with a lot of people who are starting their own businesses in the cleaning industry who aren't. So, that you can share that with those folks in your life too.
Stocking stuffers for Christmas.
Yes. College graduation gifts or graduate school gifts. But it's the ultimate guide for her first-time home buyers by Brooke Bryant, and you can get it on Amazon. It's available in this paperback, or it's available on Kindle. And I know for myself, when I was a first-time home buyer and in working with first-time home buyers, a big concern is, oh, my credit's not great. And your credit score is really going to impact the home buying process, how much home you can afford, what your interest rate is, the kind of loan you can get. So Angela, I think I've got a credit repair guide that is free for anybody on the show today. So you can download that. I think you're going to have that in the show links. And it's just some good sound advice to get your credit to a good place and to keep it at a good place. It's always a good idea to have your credit score working for you and not against you. So yeah, you can find it on Amazon, and you can find me and all the social medias at Ask Brooke Bryant.
Brooke, I love that your book really goes through the whole process, start to finish. Really helps people through that first-time home buying experience. So
Yeah,
thank you so much
helpful.
for blessing the world with your years and years of knowledge.
Yes.
Well, thanks.
Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
I'm grateful that you wrote it.
Thank you so
excited to
much.
read it.
Thank you. I really, really do think there's so many benefits of home ownership, and I want everybody to have that opportunity. So, but thank you all for the great questions and raking me over the coals. It was fun.
No, we so appreciate it. Angela, where can we find you?
I'm on all the social medias. Ask Angela Brown. So thanks again for having me here today. This was awesome. And thank you, Brooke, for your book and for joining us and giving us all of your words of wisdom. I appreciate that.
Thank you,
Appreciate you
Angela.
guys. Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you all.
Bye, everybody.